Well, again, thanks everybody for being here. We're delighted to have you. My name is Jeff Murphy. I'm a member of the Career Programs team in the Office of Alumni Relations, and we're really excited to have you here as we present our BU Alumni Career Talk, Helping Professional Women Achieve a Work-Life Balance. Today's session is offered to our 352,000 alumni around the globe, as well as all of our current students. Throughout your career, BU is committed to helping you define and achieve your professional goals, and we aim to do this by providing everybody with access to a series of valuable online tools and social media communities. Again, as we mentioned before, we really kicked things off. We have some alumni and probably some students joining us today from some very far away places. Please know we really do appreciate your participation in this and every program that BU offers. Before I introduce our featured speaker for the day, just a couple housekeeping notes from me. Today's presentation is being recorded and will soon be made available for on-demand viewing on the Alumni and Friends website, which you can find at www.bu.edu/alumni. Our speaker today is very eager to answer your questions, and in fact, this entire session is really designed to be one big conversation. What we'd like to do is go ahead and at any point during the presentation, go ahead and submit your questions in the chat. Just go ahead and type it in, and we're going to save plenty of time at the end. And then I'll go ahead and either call on you. You can go ahead and ask Gloria your question, or if you'd rather, I can read that back to Gloria for you. But again, we really want to make this interactive. Again, we're looking forward to having plenty of time for discussion after a more formal portion of the program. So with that, it's now my pleasure to introduce our speaker for the day, BU College of Arts and Sciences alum, Gloria Milner. Gloria is a 5-career woman, starting with educator, advertising executive, hotel entrepreneur, independent rabbi, which I'd never heard of before until meeting Gloria, and now life coach. She's a wife and mother, as well as a grandmother to 2 toddlers. A New York City woman of culture, living in the city for 40 years. Gloria is also a classical pianist and appreciator of the arts. Gloria, I know I speak for Boston University officially when I say to you this event is a bit different from the ones I usually do. Again, designed to be very conversational. You're not going to be sharing any slides, which I think is actually kind of refreshing. If you wouldn't mind getting us started by telling us a little bit more about yourself. Your career is fascinating. Tell us a little bit more about that, and then also tell us how you plan to run today's event, how you plan to sort of kick us off.
Sure. First, Jeff, thank you so much. And when you told me about the slides, I went, oh no, that's not who I am. But we could pivot to this format, and I'm thrilled to be a part of this. Yes, I've had 5 careers in my life, and I'm 75 years old, and I'm not quite sure where the years went, but I am full of energy. I think I'm 50. My body thinks I'm not. But my whole idea is giving back and really at this point in my life being there for people, which was why I started in the life coaching platform after the independent rabbi. But yes, I've had careers, 20 years in the Mad Men era in advertising when I was one of or 2 of people, 200 men and me, and then a hotel entrepreneur in Times Square in the 80s and 90s when it was really quite sketchy. And then created a 41-room bed and breakfast in Times Square with my husband. So many, many things that I've drawn on, and I put together this presentation for you all based on my reading, my client work, and maybe a little common sense. So I'm going to dive into this, and then there's plenty of Q&A time. Thank you for all being here and listening. So I'll be speaking about work and personal life in 2 separate sections. Following each section, I will give some helpful tips on how to achieve balance in a stressful time. This is meant as an overview based on my background, reading, and client interaction, as I've mentioned. And any of the suggestions I offer for balance can be baby steps, deep dives, or just things to think about. So again, thanks for listening and showing up. So balance impacts physical, emotional, and mental well-being. It is totally important for career and family life. Less stress lowers the risk of burnout and provides a greater sense of well-being. Balance feeds stability. We are in a challenging time, as all of you know too well. I hope to impart some trends and help you navigate your overload to achieve balance in your life. Do you feel overwhelmed with all you have to accomplish, both at work and at home? Are you putting off exercise and self-care because you're too tired after work? Do you find it hard to be present for your family when you come home? Are you a full-time working mom with a child or two, trying to maintain a loving relationship with your partner? Do you feel guilty when you stop working for an hour, since there is so much to be done? I understand what you are going through, as I've walked in your shoes. I have had careers, as I mentioned, in corporate business, social service, entrepreneurship, while being married and raising a son in New York City. Presently, I am helping professional women to try and achieve a work-life balance, because that was my story, and I did it without a whole lot of help, and that's not where you have to be at this point. So, most of us spend the majority of our life and effort at work. We aim to produce financial and personal reward, gain feelings of accomplishment, acceptance, respect, and status. Due to the pandemic, people are asked to do a lot more at work, with a lot less these days. There are fewer workers doing the same amount of work or more prior to COVID. There are fewer resources. Many companies need to hire more people, but can't find them or haven't done it for budgetary reasons. Added responsibilities are often spread among the remaining people at the firm. Business hours are morphed into any hours with remote and hybrid workplaces. There is a blurred line between work and life. If you are convinced you have to work longer hours to get the job done, that will be top of mind for you. After 2 years of COVID, companies are more focused with bringing back workers in person or hybrid instead of 100% remote. Expectations are high, and often women feel they have to be all things to all people. So this sets up an inability to set boundaries and say no, which is often hard for women. Why is that, you think? Well, often women don't know themselves well enough, in my opinion, to generate conditions that will produce a life of balance for themselves. We don't know many times who we are. What are our passions, beliefs, talents, and priorities? What are our non-negotiables, the things in our work and life that are critical components of who we are and who we want to be? Women are more likely to experience burnout than men. This has caused millions of women to leave the workplace. Research studies tell us that the percentage of American women working is the lowest it's been since 1988. Signs of burnout include physical and emotional exhaustion, cynicism and detachment at work and at home, feelings of ineffectiveness and lack of accomplishment. So think about how you react to this kind of stress when you're in it. And I'm just throwing out 2 or 3 ideas. Are you suffering and being the victim, taking no action? Are you accepting this situation and aligning yourself with the uncertainty? Are you responding and taking steps to change the situation as best you can? So we women are often less likely to assess our work environment and cultures that cultivate burnout. It's important to try and pick your workplace carefully going forward if planning to change jobs or assess your present situation. Assess what you want from work. Do you have the right set of skill sets for your present or future position? How well organized is your home life to prepare for a promotion or a job change? After the 2-year mark of COVID, companies are trying to push back to the office for real this time. They feel hopeful about how to keep workers safe through testing and vaccines. They feel that the longer remote and hybrid lasts, the harder to bring people back full-time. So, if you are considering a job change or a different position within your company, think about the following. Does the company have clear expectations for workers? Does the company encourage teamwork and provide strength-oriented positive feedback? Does the company provide flexibility in working conditions such as hybrid or remote? Going forward, are there any plans for shorter work weeks or expanded parental leaves? A big trend stemming from the pandemic is choosing to freelance, which of course allows you more time as an option. So, business hours have morphed into any hours and all hours as well. You all know that. Working too many hours limits your access to your full range of skills and abilities. Your brain needs time to unplug and recharge, to unleash creativity. So, what to do in all of this morass and toxic brew that might help you center yourself in a stressful work environment? And again, I'm just throwing out a number of things. Most of you know all of or part of what I've talked about, but hopefully I'll give you some new thoughts. Take breaks from work wherever you are to stretch, exercise, or check in with a supportive coworker. Talk to your boss about how to keep your productivity up, if possible. Delegate as much as you can. Research has shown that 20% of every workday is spent on important things, 80% on things that have little value. Live that statistic if you can. Not everything we do has to be done with lightning speed, even though we think it does. Being mindful and present when working may make you ultimately more productive. Try and keep a positive attitude. It won't be this way forever, even if it feels that way now. Connect with optimists on the job. Try and keep an open heart and compassionate point of view. You don't know what your coworkers are going through. So I know it's easy for me to say all of these things, but if you come away with one thing, or that would be a success for me. It would be a win. I'd like to segue now into the home environment, the personal life. Do you feel overwhelmed with all you have to accomplish at home? Have you backburnered intimacy? Are you finding it hard to be present for your family when you come home? Do you feel guilty and worried about the impact your work may have on your partner and children? You may feel a lack of fulfillment in your social life. During the pandemic, many of us have had no close family within hundreds of miles. We may have been sequestered with our nuclear family, with social networks falling apart and no safety net. In a post-COVID world, things have improved, but for many, still are challenging. Many of my clients say that most of the time spent with a partner or husband is in front of TV watching Netflix after putting the kids to bed. They say they are a happy couple, but look at their phones more than looking at each other. These women may have performed 3 times as much childcare and household chores at a higher rate than their male partners. Mothers having children under 5 are particularly challenged as daycares are overwhelmed and understaffed. There are 110,000 fewer people working in childcare compared with 2020. With no vaccines for children under 5 yet, and with closures of daycares, parents have to make difficult choices how to work remotely with children underfoot. Women may pass up promotions due to the above circumstances. So this is indeed extremely challenging and difficult. Again, whatever your bandwidth allows you to do is right for you with some of these ideas. No one can do everything for everyone. So we hear a lot about self-care, but self-care is important because if you can take care of your own needs, then you're in a better position to take care of your family. Our basic needs are food, water, and rest. We also need purpose, relationships, connections, and meaning in our lives. Women often fear we don't have time to take care of family, so we neglect ourselves. So try some of these home tips on for size. Recognize the signs of stress and assess where you are right now. Make short and long-term goals for the family. Doing a family calendar might be a good place to start. Try and be 100% present for your children. I know everyone's going to laugh at that. It's often difficult, but think of relaxing with the kids and enjoying them as a $100,000 per hour job. Just think about that concept. Imagine your child someday saying to you, "Mom worked hard, but always had time to hug me, hear about my day, and offer me guidance. I know I mattered to her in a big way." Stop mom guilt. Full stop. Set limits on TV and computer time for your kids. Reduce clutter to make housekeeping easier. Become a master meal planner. And then for yourself, try and linger on your favorite memories that invoke feelings of well-being. Use your senses to really feel the experience in your body. When we connect to the core within ourselves, we can access our center of well-being. This space of safety, warmth, and wellness, allowing us to put our life equally important to our work, allows us to recalibrate and prioritize those things that keep us connected to our core of well-being. Exercise, hydrate, meditate. Sleep as much as you possibly can, and take a vacation, not when you're burned out, but prior to it, because this will help keep your mental equanimity strong and your work productivity high. Connect, connect, connect. Ask for help. So we often hear the word gratitude. It's a buzzword. People talk about gratitude all the time, keeping a gratitude journal. But studies have shown that being grateful each day for 1 or 2 things affects the quality of your life in a positive way if you do it continuously. So we are not defined only by our work and how everything has to fit into the small space that is left after we finish working. Work shouldn't take the place of life. One of the positive offshoots from the pandemic is that people want their lives to come first, or at least balance the time and effort spent working. I would like to think about trends that I think about for 2022. With the Great Resignation showing no signs of abating, it is more important than ever that employers listen to the needs of their people and adapt accordingly. Research from a Chicago-based startup shows that work-life balance is actually more important to women than compensation at this point. Top requests are student loan assistance, expanded parental leave, and sabbaticals. Firms are hopefully reshaping offices for in-person work, avoiding high density. Public health interests should continue to dominate agendas in 2022. So as you can see, what I'm proposing here is not rocket science, and you may have heard many of these things before, and whatever you take away from this information, I hope will be helpful. In my coaching practice, I try and partner with women to let go of perfectionism and maintain strong relationships. We work together to overcome obstacles they are encountering. I will provide feedback and ask for accountability. This will hopefully help my clients move forward with focus and success. A coach is a wellness professional that helps people make progress in their lives in order to attain great fulfillment. I am offering a complimentary half-hour session to all of these people who are on my Zoom call, and you can contact me at any of the platforms on the slide that Jeff will pull up. Prior to the Q&A, yes, thank you so much, Jeff. So have a website, LinkedIn, email, all of the above. And this is being pre-recorded, as Jeff mentioned. So I would like to do something to close this presentation out. And it's a 3-minute meditation. Many companies use meditation a few minutes before their meetings, and I think that this meditation is really fits really well with my talk. The meditation is on equanimity. So if you feel that you can do this and there's no pressure, I'm just throwing it out as something that may be helpful. So if you feel comfortable, get comfortable even more. Close your eyes or lower your gaze. Let's take 3 deep breaths. Breathe in deeply through your nose and breathe out slowly. Let's do another breath. Breathe in and breathe out slowly. And one more breath. Breathe in. Breathe out. Pay attention to the feeling of the breath in your body. And now go back to your natural breath rhythm. And the breath will help concentration. You can, when you're breathing, naturally feel the rising and the falling. And with every breath, you can say, rise and fall. Rise and fall. Equanimity is a very deep and profound state of mental balance and stability. The cause of much of our upset and emotional instability is having a desire to change how things are in the here and now. Learning to accept the here and now for what it is can lead to a more balanced, wholesome, and helpful viewpoint. It can also offer a lot of emotional turmoil cut at its root. Just allow things to be as they are in the present moment. Observe and pay attention. Keep your inner peace and inner sense of balance. Whenever you noticed you're lost in thought, just acknowledge it and then bring your attention back to the breath, feeling the rise and the fall. Another way we can practice equanimity is by using the phrase, right now, it's like this. If you are noticing restlessness or anxiety, bring your attention to that and acknowledge it and say, ah, right now, it's like this. What are you noticing in this moment? Use the breath as an anchor. And then set the attention to practice equanimity, to accept things as they are. Whatever arises, can we just notice it? And to end this meditation, we can take a deep breath together, breathing in deeply and breathing out slowly. Allow your eyes to open, coming back into the room, and connect with your senses. Maybe check in with how you feel and start to move again. Thank you. Jeff, I turn this over to you.
Great, that felt awesome. Thank you for including that in my day, Gloria. Great job, and I love that you designed today so that we could have basically the entire second half for conversation and discussion. And I want to encourage folks again to make use of this time to ask your questions. We have a great one from Harriet in the chat that made me smirk a little bit. But you've got a great opportunity to talk about your own situations with somebody who spent a lot of time helping people through the struggles that a lot of us face, women and men, I will say. So Harriet, before we get to your question, I'd like to open it up to anybody who's feeling maybe bold enough, and there's so many of you, everybody now except for Gloria and I have turned off our cameras. Anybody who wants to turn their camera on and go ahead and ask, of all the things that Gloria touched on today, what are the things that you're struggling with? What are the things that you're looking for help with? You want to go ahead and volunteer. And if you want to, you can, on Zoom, some of you probably already know, on your toolbar, there's a box called reactions. Under that, you can click on that and you can actually raise your hand and I can go ahead and call on you, which would be wonderful. You've all been a fantastic audience in that you've all remained muted. I appreciate that. Thank you all very much. Well, while you all consider whether or not you want to be bold today, let's go ahead. Harriet, would you be willing to read your question there? Susan, I see your thumb is up. Thank you. I'll call on you in a second. Harriet, would you be willing to read your question or ask your question to Gloria? There's Harriet on my screen.
1, 2, 3, fourth row on mine.
Oh,
Second
yeah,
over.
There
Yeah.
she is, Harriet. Thank you. Go ahead. Ask your question.
Thank you, friends. And thank you for this program. I was wondering, Gloria, what you suggest to clients about how they take on some of the advice. I think many of these things are in the category of, yeah, I should do that. But sometimes it feels like another list,
Yeah.
another to-do list, right?
Yes.
Is there a way to start that yields some momentum?
What a wonderful question. And yes, in my coaching practice, I threw all of this at you at one time. I had about a half hour to do it. But if you were working with me or working on your own, I would take baby steps. I would take perhaps for 1 week or 2 weeks and say, hey, let's try this calendar thing with the family, if you have a family, and let's try it and do it in terms of really small steps, so that you have a sense of accountability for yourself, and then you can see results. If you do too much at one time, it's really hard. But what I would do is prioritize what's really important to you and your family and your work, and then take it one step at a time, one thing a week. If you're in a coaching situation, I would discuss with the clients what are the top things, and then design exercises and hold them accountable and say, what did you do this week? Are you really accountable? Did you really do it? Did it slip by the wayside? So I think the accountability feature is the most important part. We can all make lists, and we all are good at it, and we're all organized, but it's how you implement what you want to do that's the key to your success.
Thank you so much, Harriet, for asking. I appreciate you breaking the ice for us. And I should recognize, I'm sure a lot of you are in probably work situations in offices where you can't unmute and ask a question. You can't turn on your cameras. That's 100% okay. I totally understand that. So we had some thumbs up, but I didn't see any raised hands. Was there somebody else that wanted to go ahead and ask a question? I don't see any other questions in the chat. Christine's commenting, I love that you said sleep as much as you can. Sleep is so important.
Yeah, so I'll comment on that. I mean, obviously, if you have young kids and your sleep is disturbed because you're on their schedules or whatever, it's challenging. And again, it's sleep relaxes us as well as energizes us, or gives us, we can't have no sleep for huge amounts of time and be productive. But, if you're living with someone, a partner, a husband, a significant person, and you can take 20-minute cat naps, or, if you can't get 6-7 hours straight and it's going to be stressful, try to be a little creative so that you can, either during the day or when you come home, shut the door and have some peace and quiet, replicate what sleep is. If you're good at cat napping, that's great too. But just that peace and equanimity and being apart and self-care.
A lot of what you said about kids and parenting, and my kids are 4 and 1, and talking about couples, and my wife and I, sometimes at night it's like all we can do is just lie on the couch and watch Netflix. We're talking about us, and really made me think. It really resonated with me, Gloria. Tina, do you want to ask your question? I'm happy to read it. Go ahead, Tina. Thanks so much.
Yes, no problem. Thank you. I have 2 very small boys, and it has been quite the year, to say the least.
Sure.
And we're at the point where I have to tell them to do the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I found that, and I am rather what you'd say is short, like my voice gets elevated. I get a little more angry, more frustrated, and more reactionary than I want to be, because then everything is elevated, and I want to appear more grounded, more centered, but also get my point across of what I expect from them. Do you have any suggestions on how to be less reactionary?
Sure. How old are the boys?
9.
What?
7 and 9, first and third grades.
Whoa. They have a lot to say.
Yes, they've got a lot of energy and not the best of listeners, and they're little boys.
Yeah, I get it. So that obviously is very challenging. I have a few thoughts. I know this may sound woo-woo, but in terms of reactionary and the way you're showing up, breathing before you say something, even if it's like a minute, 30 seconds of breathing in and centering yourself before you react or say something. And I realize that there may be just instantaneous things that you have to say, but if you at the time can just even take 30 seconds to take a few short breaths to just get in touch with your feelings. The other thing that I would think would be helpful, I have a 7-year-old grandson and he has a 5-year-old sister, and I'm often babysitting and trying to get in between, and I find the sense of humor and play, and that often using playtime with them, however you can be with them, and using the time when you're together in a more relaxed way, rather than say, do this, do this, do this, do this, and use it in a humorous way, is probably maybe more effective in reaching them. In other words, if you're going to come across as do this, they may tune it out after a while. But if you're coming through the back door in a little bit more centered way, how you react and how you show up will, as you have mentioned, impact them. So you have to think of relaxed situations as best you can. Easy for me to say. That will diffuse the situation and make it less, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. And there's of course room for that. You must do that. But I'm asking you to think about changing how you are and changing the environment of how you react.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Tina. Appreciate that. We got some great questions in the chat here. Gabby's came in first. Gabby, would you mind asking your question out loud, or we've got another one from Christine. I know she's happy to. Gabby, are you still with us? Well, Christine, why don't you go ahead and ask your great question?
Sure.
Hi, Christine.
Hello.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here. Go ahead.
This has been really helpful. My
Terrific.
question was about how to create balance in the home where the responsibility is not kids, but is adults, for instance, who have medical conditions. And also I'm involved with elder care for one of my parents. So it's not the same thing where I'm necessarily trying to like motivate them or have a calendar of what they're doing, but more dealing with sometimes the exhaustion of just, being around people who are in pain, who might be resistant to accepting help, but they're also, they have their own free agency. So I'm not able to, say you have to do this in the way that I might be able to have some more, I hate to use the word control, but if it was like a child or someone. So how do you deal with that?
So you are the caretaker in some ways? Are you living with elderly parents or family that is physically challenged or?
Not. So one of the people that I'm referring to will be living here short term, recovering from surgery, and we're spending a lot of time on the phone, working on different, issues related to health and accessing services and stuff.
Okay, so she hasn't come to you yet, but she will be coming to you. Yeah, and your question is, how do you relate, or what things could be brought to bear to make it easier for your own boundaries and for your own sense of helping and not losing yourself?
Yeah.
Okay.
Not getting exhausted, I guess.
Yeah, so I think that probably some of the things I said about work is applicable. In other words, assess the situation. What is it? Make a list of when she or he is coming. What do I need to do? What will their needs be? How are they going to show up? And then figure out what you need in the course of a day or a night to keep yourself balanced and centered so that you don't lose it and you don't feel taken advantage of, or in some way, shape, or form given too much of yourself, so there's nothing left for them. So it's a matter of a two-pronged attack. Figure out what the needs are, and what the requirements will be, and then if there's anyone at home besides you to help besides you, how you're going to delegate and distribute that so that you don't have to be the primary person. If you are the primary person, then what is it that you need in the course of a day to keep yourself balanced and to make sure that you really hold yourself accountable to that? Because, as I said, if the caretaker loses it and is not really in good shape or balanced, then you can't take care of anyone else. So I think that with a little planning, and then you can't control how this person is going to react to you if they're not looking to accept, your care and concern. Again, humor is one of the greatest ways to deal with people and to deal with challenging situations, or watching a movie or listening to a piece of music, or in some way, shape, or form changing things up so that it disarms the other person to relax. And that's pretty much what everyone needs to do, I would think, in this situation.
Thank you.
You got it.
Thanks, Christine. I appreciate you asking. Gloria, let's ask Gabby's question. Gabby, I don't quite understand the second part. So if you want to elaborate in the chat, that might be helpful. I don't quite understand the shores part. But so Gabby's making the point that she's actually more stressed working from home than when she wasn't. And I think that she's specifically, talking about moving to work from home as a result of the pandemic. Gabby, please let me know if I'm misunderstanding.
Yes.
But are you seeing that, Gloria? Are you having any clients that are finding it actually just so much more stressful to sort of be in the home all the time? You talked about families where kids are stuck in the house and trying to get things done. Is that something that you're running into often? Do you have advice for folks that are finding it more stressful to be working from home as opposed to less stressful?
Totally. And I think working from home is more stressful with young children because it's not the natural way in which you worked before. And like I said, there are sometimes no boundaries, no time, no beginning, no end, no water coolers, no socialization of people, no interaction. So in some ways, you're much more isolated. I mean, it's a great thing because it cuts down on commuting, and again, you could have more family time. But I think that if you're in a small space, an apartment, if you don't have a lot of bigger space, you can feel confined, you can feel cut off, you can feel that it's all children all the time, and then I have to juggle. And then, again, it's the idea of, the kids playing, where are they? Is there daycare? Is there someone in the house to help? What is the dog barking? All of these distractions that are not clearly in the workplace. So I think that unless you have adequate boundaries and parameters set, and that's an organizational thing, it's far more stressful in a way with young kids to work from home than it would be to go to the office and say, okay, I have a block of 6 hours. And that's very, very common. The hybrid situation might be an ideal for a lot of people because, again, if they're in the suburbs of any major city and they're not in the center city, they can cut down on the commute and they can still have that interaction. And it's also been shown that if you're in people's faces and you're in leadership and then you want to go to the next step, being in front of people who can decide your fate and promotions is often better than working remotely. So that's good. And I think that, as I mentioned, companies for self-serving purposes are going to be far more open to the hybrid and all kinds of creative ideas than they would be before, because they don't want to lose you. They want to hold on to their good people, and they want to recruit really good people who are not going to say, hey, I'll do whatever you want. Here are my terms. So I think that employees are in a much stronger position in a way than they have been.
So we've been talking a lot about families with kids and small children in particular. What about our young alumni that are here today? You know, folks that haven't yet started families, don't have spouses, don't have children. They're still having burnout, and Maggie's not able to ask her question out loud. Thank you, Maggie, for letting me know. But she's actually interested to hear more about your own personal story, Gloria. It's a sort of wishing you knew now then what you know now. Was there anything that you wish you had done earlier in your career to achieve the work-life balance that you sort of understand how to achieve now? You know, before you were married and had the family, things that you feel like folks that are just getting started in their careers really need to do to sort of set those boundaries?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think that that what I really regret is not having enough guidance and feeling being able to reach out to people. Like coaching wasn't that, you know, much a career path, and accessibility, or people going into therapy or going to career counselors at BU and their alum. I think that when you're younger and you've graduated and you are just in the job market or just starting, I mean, you have so many questions. You have perhaps some uncertainties and fears, and what am I doing, and am I working remotely, and who notices me? So I think the important thing that I feel is that that perhaps when I was a high school teacher after my master's, and then I got into, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and I came to New York. I was in DC teaching, and I was like, what do I do now? I'm burnt out as a teacher, and I'm not sure. So I got a job at a computer firm as a secretary. And I was lucky enough for someone to reach out to me at the company and say, Gloria, you are so overqualified. Did you ever think of advertising with your master's and undergrad in English? And I had never even thought about that. And sure enough, I reached out. At the time, it was Westinghouse Broadcasting, and I got a job as an assistant, then research, then sales. But for getting connected and for getting help and for getting someone who could mentor you or talk to you is so important, because at 22, at 24, at 26, whatever, you may not be sure. You may have, you know, been in a program and graduated with an English degree, but you know, that's what are you doing now? What can you do? So I think that that's probably an example of how someone really made a difference in my life by talking to me and almost mentoring me.
Gloria, I'm going to have to pay you an additional fee, even though you and I both know I'm not paying you. You've done this out of the kindness of your heart and a desire to make a difference for women around the world. But you've set me up so well to do a plug for BU Connects, which
Okay.
above me, and where you and I actually met. For those of you that are on BU Connects, wonderful, thank you. But for those of you that have not heard of it before, BU Connects is a relatively new networking and mentoring platform that we've launched just for the Boston University community. It's an amazing place to find the kind of help and the kind of mentoring that Gloria is talking about. We make it incredibly easy to search on a variety of different filters to find folks that you might want to connect with for these kind of conversations, quite frankly, I think. I forget what I was going to say next, but just go to buconnects.com, and once you sign, I would say that the pro tip is to sign in with your LinkedIn account, and that way you can copy all your information over, sign up, and be in the platform within seconds. And we make it very, very clear who's available to mentor. This is what I was going to say. We have over 5,000 alumni around the globe who are offering mentoring specifically. And so it's a great resource available to all alumni and students around the globe. So please, if you haven't already, make sure you check that out. Some great questions today, some great comments. Thank you all so much. Gloria, one last thing. I'm just curious, are there authors, like specific books or other sort of resources that have been valuable to you as you have been doing your own research and your own work that you might recommend to folks as places to keep reading about this topic?
Yeah, so I think that in terms of what's changing so much, I wouldn't say books per se, because if you think about someone who's writing a book, they probably have started it a year or two ago. And so I think the most important thing is, and New York Times, Forbes, Fortune, any kind of magazine, newspaper, and of course the net, LinkedIn, posts that people work-life balance, and you get a zillion things going on, and people's websites, because this year or two has meant that we have to change and pivot so quickly that what might have been, I remember a year ago, where Omicron just came up, and then whatever we did that week, that end of the week was different because, we absolutely couldn't do what we did, and we had to pivot so quickly. So I think that top of mind and reading the current information is the most helpful, and I think that will be the most relevant to people. And I would say, women's books, of course, but I think that all of this relevancy will probably land stronger than perhaps that books that were written 2 years ago.
Great. Well, your website has a lot of great content on there.
Thank
so I
you.
encourage folks to check that out and follow up with you at the places we've listed here. The offer that you've made to folks is just incredibly generous. So thank you so much for doing that for the BU community. And
My pleasure.
This was a great presentation. I'm really glad that we connected, and just on behalf of all BU, thank you so much for doing this today.
Thank you for having me and for being a great audience.
Yeah, our audience was great. Again, great questions from so many of you. Thank you for those of you that maybe didn't know we were going to call on you to do questions in front of everybody. I want to thank all of you that have donated to BU. We really appreciate all of your support and wouldn't be able to do this work without you. If you're here today, you probably might have interest in our next career webinar, which is coming up next Wednesday, the 23rd. We're offering women and making the most of mentoring. So pretty relevant to a lot of what we were talking about today. So that we still have plenty of space on that session. You can sign up for that now on our website at bu.edu/alumni/events. And again, thank you so much, Gloria. Appreciate it.
Of course.
Hope
Bye
you all
now.
have a great day, great evening, wherever
Take
you might
care.
be. Take care.
Bye now.